Point-and-click adventure games were really popular on the PC, but there were a few released on the NES. One in particular was the film noir thriller Deja Vu.
It's late December, 1941. I'm in Chicago and the city is buzzing, much like my head. The damn Japs just hit us. Pretty hard. Looks like war. I think maybe I was hit pretty hard as well. I seem to be in a bathroom. I've never been in this one. I'm in bathrooms pretty often, especially after a long night on the sauce. Those nights seem to happen a bit more often lately. But then again, I don't seem to remember who I am anymore. In fact, I don't seem to remember my own name. There's a coat hanging here. An old duster. Must be mine. I should check the pockets. What's this? Deja Vu. Nintendo? Is this a Japanese plot? Deja Vu. There's something familiar about all this. Why does it smell like a dead guy is across the hallway? I think we're gonna have to check this out.
Deja Vu remains one of my favorite game titles of all time. My penchant for point-and-click adventures originated with this game. My interest was piqued by the full spread of Nintendo Power back in 1990. Following the thematic inspiration of Philip Marlowe dramas and legendary films like The Maltese Falcon, Deja Vu places the player in the shoes of Ace Harding, a former boxer turned amnesiac who awakens in a strange bar, unaware of his surroundings or his own identity. Quick inspection of the nearby rooms reveals a vacant establishment, except for the dead body in the room upstairs. While point-and-click games like Uninvited, Shadowgate, and even Maniac Mansion all revolved around the supernatural or horror themes, Deja Vu is a film noir mystery set in early 1940s in Chicago. Due to the game's story being the central aspect of this title, and the mystery of the protagonist's identity being the catalyst for the unraveling of the intricate plot, I will only provide limited story information in this review. But much like the game's mysteries and twists, I advise all of you to find a copy and discover them for yourself. First published for the Apple Macintosh by Mindscape Incorporated in 1985, Deja Vu: The Nightmare Continues was the first game to display the legendary MacVenture user interface created by the game's developer ICOM Simulations. While other computer adventure games built the narrative drama simply through text-based interactions and story-driven theater of the mind, the MacVenture interface allowed you to use the on-screen cursor to interact with the individual rooms and screens you encounter. While text-based adventure games began to incorporate graphical representations of the environment, Deja Vu was the first to completely eradicate the text-only system. Simple verb commands were given as a selectable option before choosing the item or character on screen for which to interact with. It was a revolutionary leap that transformed text-based adventure games into the more evolved point-and-click adventure games. ICOM's MacVenture interface inspired LucasArts to create Maniac Mansion in 1987 with its similar SCUM interface. Deja Vu was released for multiple computing platforms in the 1980s, including the Commodore Amiga, Apple II GS, Atari ST, as well as MS-DOS in 1987. But in 1990, Kemco Seika released Deja Vu for the NES, the follow-up to Kemco's port of Shadowgate in 1989 and the precursor to Uninvited in 1991. Kemco Seika, through these three computer ports, altered the MacVenture interface to work appropriately on the Nintendo console. While the ability to use the mouse was now missing, Kemco Seika added an easy-to-use cursor mechanism that snapped appropriately into certain menu systems while flowing freely in the graphical environment to allow for a free range of interaction with what was on the screen. This system was almost identical to the interface of the two other Kemco NES ports. I recall Deja Vu in the same way as I recall many of my favorite games such as Snatcher, Phoenix Wright, and Chrono Trigger. The story and inherent feeling the game delivers remains present even to this day. A successful game, much like a successful movie, must transport you to another world, But with games and their fundamental component of interactivity, the challenge of encapsulating the audience and carrying the mind is that much more critical and imperative with video games. All elements of the game contribute to this process. One of the most critical in Deja Vu is the music. While the NES game did not have closing credits, the Game Boy port did, and with some research, it can be determined that the composers of this classically haunting and mysterious score are Koji Nishikawa and Masayomi Miura. These musicians were also responsible for the music in Uninvited as well as Shadowgate. The music can be repetitive after spending hours working on the mysteries, but the talent of these tracks cannot be overlooked. It is the perfect environmental sound for this narrative. While playing Deja Vu, it can become easy to get turned around and a bit out of sorts due to the somewhat dyslexia-inducing move menu. The boxes indicate the next room to follow, and due to their placement in conjunction with the graphical representation on screen, you may make a couple unintended moves now and again. Nintendo Power's extensive walkthrough and map helps immeasurably in this regard. Few things have changed in the NES version from the original Mac. Graphics are improved but are arguably inferior to the Amiga port, while certain thematic moments, like the use of medicinal capsules instead of a syringe, were added for the somewhat tamer feel Nintendo always seemed to look for. But from punching women to punching hobos to finding bodies and attempting to clear your own name in a murder you did not commit, this title still remains one of the most adult and gritty on the NES system. The feel of this game places you right into late December 1941 in a Chicago setting filled with dangerous characters and even Chicago bungalows. And time is running out as your splitting headache and lack of memory weighs on you as you rush to find the clues to your identity and your freedom. A sequel to Deja Vu was released by ICOM in 1987, titled Deja Vu 2: Lost in Las Vegas. A port was soon created for the NES, but it was never released. A rumored prototype is said to be in existence, considering these screenshots from an old Nintendo Power, but no one has managed to come across it in the wild. It remains one of the mysteries of the NES that hopefully one day will be found. The CDI was scheduled to have releases of the series as well as the other ICOM titles, but the short-lived console never got to see these ports. In 1998, Kemco, Vatical Entertainment, and Infinite Ventures released Deja Vu 1 and 2, the casebooks of Ace Harding, for the Game Boy Color. The interface and graphics were arguably improved and modified for the small screen. This title remains a somewhat rare game, and it will fetch up to $30 or more on eBay. Deja Vu is an often overlooked video game on the Nintendo Entertainment System, with little fanfare or recognition as the premier and original point-and-click adventure game on the computer. Much of the adventure game revival we are currently seeing on the Nintendo DS and other consoles owes quite a bit to what ICOM Simulation accomplished 25 years ago. The feeling I get when playing Deja Vu for the NES remains the same as it did when I was 10 years old. This story will still grab the player as it remains a mature-themed and thrilling mystery.